Welcome back to Interview At, where we help you leverage the Amazon leadership principles to land your dream job. I use these office hour videos to cover topics that are basically questions that I get in follow-up sessions after the mock interviews. Speaking of which, if you would like to do a free mock interview ahead of your next interview trying to get your dream job, sign up at interviewat.com. Those questions that come up in follow-up sessions, questions that I get in email, comments below. Also, go ahead and leave a question you'd like to see covered in office hours in the comments below, or great pieces of advice that I have received along the way in my career. This week's question actually comes from a customer, a YouTube viewer who left it in. It's Vanilla Coke 9891. Not really sure what the 9891 is. I hope it's not the last four digits of your social security number because, well, yeah. But the question that was asked was, am I too old to switch roles? It's a good question. In this specific instance, it was, am I too old to switch to product management? I don't really think the role type matters, although, there are some roles like software development engineering where being a day-to-day like junior dev where you've really got to grunt it out. As you get older, definitely you lose energy and it can be harder to make that switch, but it's not impossible. But let's just talk in a meta sense, the notion of switching roles. You're never too old to switch roles. Ageism is real. And you have to be able to hold both of those statements as truths in your mind and understand the tension between the two, because it's going to impact how you think about changing roles. When you're in a job interview, any company, right? Remember, these are busy people. They're usually hair on fire. Many times, terrible process, which means it just feels, to the people inside the organization, it just feels chaotic. Like, oh, we got people coming in all the time. The quality of the candidates is all over the place. When are we hiring? So there's a lot of internal stress that you as the interviewee are now stepping into, right? As a candidate, you're stepping into. And so the people that are interviewing you, especially the more senior they get, the better they are at this. They're looking for patterns of success, right? And especially the managers, they're looking for patterns of success. They're thinking about, okay, who do I have on my team who's really good? How does this person measure up? That's how they're thinking about it. And so they're going to want to see that you can do the job, right? The number, I say this again and again and again, your number one job when you go into a job interview is to demonstrate that you can do the job. That's it. Can you do this job? And so if you're switching roles from a program manager to a product manager, a development engineer to a product manager, biz dev, salesperson to product manager, like where on your resume, let's just start with the resume. Where on your resume or your LinkedIn profile does it show that you have product management skills, right? Have you demonstrated that you can take customer requirements, demonstrate customer obsession, think big, come up with new products, services, features, whatever, right? If you're going for a junior role, you're managing features. If you're trying to prove that you can take on a more substantive manager role where you own an entire product or even a platform, you have to be able to, like at a glance, demonstrate that so as to not even create the air of, well, why am I talking to this person going into the interview? So that's problem number one. Problem number two is, quite honestly, you're going to have to be prepared to move down the ladder. Like if you're a senior development engineer, you're not going to step into a senior product manager. If you're a director of engineering, right, you're just not stepping into a director of product management role unless you can demonstrate clearly that in that role you had been managing product managers, preferably managers of managers as product managers. But if you've never had that set of roles and responsibilities rolling up to you, it's a good bet you're going to have to think about stepping down in your current role level as you switch over job families. That's just something you got to mentally prepare for. So what's your best strategy here? Well, there's a couple things. One, think about how you can take on side work. If you have no product management experience, and again, now I'm focusing on Vanilla Coke's question about switching into product management. If you have no product management experience that you can demonstrate on your resume, where can you go do free work? Where can you go take on project work on Upwork or something like that, right? Work on some projects, take small things. It's going to require you to work outside of your normal job, right? You're trying to switch. You got to invest in yourself. So go find projects you can work on. Go to meetups where you can meet up with other teams or think about building something cool. Go to hacking weekends where you can go and work with a development team and kind of be the person who's building out the requirements and learn what it is to do that job, right? That's one option available to you. If you're trying to stay within the tech world, and in the tech family of jobs, honestly, your biggest asset is your personal equity at the company you're at. So if you're a top performer or even just a good performer and they don't want to lose you, depending on your relationship with your manager, but hopefully it's good enough that you can have the conversation of, you know what, I'm really thinking about, I want to change the career path I'm on. I want to change the trajectory of where I'm going. I'd really like to focus on product management. Are there opportunities for me to step into a role doing some product management responsibility, maybe not even change the role, but just take on some product management responsibility, or just outright switch into a product manager role to see how it goes. Here's why that can work out really, really well. One, if it goes really badly, you still have the body of work that you know how to do your past job. So you don't run the risk of getting fired unless you're in some really dystopian kind of Machiavellian work environment. They're just like, oh, well, you tried this new role and you suck. Out you go, right? So you kind of leave that door open if you do it correctly, and you've earned the trust of the people around you to step back into your old role. All right. You're also leveraging your personal equity at the business and your relationships within the company to step into that new role and kind of at least be given the benefit of the doubt, at least be given the, yeah, I know they're a new product manager, but God, they were really good at their other job. I think they can do this. Let's give them a chance. So leveraging those opportunities to the extent that they exist within your organization is really probably your best bet. But and again, the elephant in the room is the age problem. Look, ageism is real. It sucks. It's hard to overcome. But in the tech industry, for whatever reason, we have fetishized the young founder. And oftentimes young founders, as they're building out their teams, they tend to want to look for people that look more like them. And that's not like a looks like them, but just kind of in that demographic. And so the companies tend to reflect that. And so if you are dramatically older, in your mid 40s, trying to go into a company that's 10 to 12 people and they're all in their mid 20s, it's going to be tougher to overcome the perception bias of changing roles and they're old. Can they even work here? It's real and it sucks and it's terrible, which is why, again, the good leaders are pattern matching against your past experience. How can you demonstrate, whether it be through a product portfolio that you can kind of hand over and say, hey, look at these projects that I worked on that sit outside of your resume, or your resume and LinkedIn, making sure that it's clear that you've done that. I had one person come through who was switching from kind of a sales engineer role and wanted to switch into product management. And he had spent 9 months basically running a product management like org inside of sales engineering. So we had to re-swizzle how he talked about it on his resume. And then he then ended up actually landing more product manager interviews and then ultimately landing the product manager job. So in that was a case where he was able to take on responsibility as one of the strategies I suggested. He had done that on his own, but he hadn't really thought to highlight it and focus on it and then use that as a way to kind of get to where he wanted to be, which was stepping out of that company into a new company with a product manager role. So those are just some areas of advice as to how you can think about trying to make the switch, understanding that, yeah, it is sometimes hard the older you get. Our tendencies and our skill sets tend to ossify a little bit, and sometimes it's a little bit harder to switch roles. And quite honestly, it can be a blow to the ego to take a step down. Sometimes you have to go down 1, 2, 3 ladder levels to take that new job. And how are you going to feel? And quite honestly, how are you going to present outwardly if you're stepping into a role? Do you have the mental maturity and the work experience maturity to not have that kind of oozing off of you, that resentment of, I'm back here again. Why aren't they treating me like I was here? Now I'm here, right? That's a real problem. So you have to ask yourself, are you ready to kind of take that on? And do you have a demonstrated ability to do that? I know that in my, we'll call it late 30s, I was not self-aware enough and did not have the ego in check enough to be able to do something like that. And I don't know that I would have been able to have that conversation with myself. So definitely talk to a trusted person who is a friend, or talk to a trusted manager who you've worked for, to get a sense of what they believe is the truth about your ability to do that. All right, well, that wraps up this week's Office Hours. And again, we do these every week. If you'd like to see a topic covered, go ahead and leave a comment below. And definitely, if you are enjoying this content, please click the like button. It lets YouTube know that I'm doing a good job, and people like you who are looking to up-level their role, up-level their lives, should see this content.